Hello, fellow lovers and movie lovers alike. I'm Hailey.
And I'm Javi.
And you're listening to the
Just Be Poly podcast,
where we discuss films and, in the end, answer the question,
could these problems be solved with polyamory?
Let's find out.
Today, we are talking about Over Her Dead Body. This film was Hailey's choice. Hailey, why did you pick this film?
I picked this film because I hadn't seen it in a really long time. And I think it's actually been 15 years since I've seen this movie. And I was really excited to re-enter it with a polyamorous perspective because my understanding of this film in particular is that we've got really direct impacts of jealousy, of someone with a monogamous perspective literally coming back from the dead to harm somebody, because they're moving in on their man. So I was like, hey, this might actually be one where Polly could help.
I definitely agree. Yeah. I can't wait to get into her character, but she is definitely very possessive. And even when she's dead.
Yeah. It's a rom-com. It's heartwarming. When you remove the funny aspects of it, it's also heartbreaking. I was really excited to watch it. It definitely was a lot less deep than what we talked about on our last episode with Frida, which I think was kind of refreshing.
Yeah, that last episode got a little depressing, honestly. I also came to the same realization, like, this is very lighthearted film. Even when you talk about the topics that they're talking about and the situations that they go through, like, for instance, Paul Rudd, when he's like, my fiance got killed on our wedding day, and he made a joke. He was like, yeah, and I appreciate the irony of her being killed by an angel.
Yeah, that's what he said. He was like, she was crushed by an angel. So even though I'm as sad as I am, I do appreciate the irony.
It's so lighthearted.
Yeah.
Even though it's so incredibly depressing.
Dark. And I thought about that. She was crushed by an angel. And I was thinking it was a year later they talk about, maybe how it might have been a closed casket. Like, I can't imagine what that kind of damage would have done to a body. Like, it sounds really horrific, but they do not broach that at all.
No, only the fun parts. Yeah, I've never even heard of this film before. You mentioned it at the end of our last podcast. Mm-hmm. So completely blind. All I knew, it had the Rudd, one of my favorite actors.
Paul Rudd, Eva Longoria, Lake Bell, and Jason Biggs.
Kate Bell, yeah.
Lake Bell. Is it?
Kate Bell and Jason Biggs.
Marbury.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also had to look up exactly the names.
Yeah.
Yes. But cool. So I'm excited to get into it.
Okay, Javi. So tell us, in your own words, please, what Over Her Dead Body is about.
Over Her Dead Body. Do angels have wings? Not the one who killed Kate on her wedding day. Do angels have wings? Not the one who meets her in the afterlife. Maybe it's not the wings that makes an angel, but perhaps it's the happiness we give to the ones we love that lets us fly.
What the fuck?
Maybe it's when we let the ones we love fly away that makes us an angel.
What are you doing?
Maybe that's all true, but Kate doesn't care. She won't let Ashley get her hands on Henry. Not even over her dead body.
Bro, you're crazy. That you didn't say anything about the movie. I'm gonna make you play the trailer. I swear to God.
I'm sorry. I wanted to do that.
Kate's not even an angel. You're implying that she's an angel.
No. I'm gonna give the actual description.
Please actually tell us what this movie's about, you fool.
Oh my goodness. After his fiancée, Kate, dies in an accident on their wedding day, veterinarian Henry grows depressed. To help him move on, his sister has him visit psychic Ashley and gives her Kate's diary. Ashley uses the journal's details to convincingly deliver the fake message that Kate wants Henry to move on. However, Kate's ghost is watching over Ashley and Henry. Furious when they fall for each other, she vows to sabotage their relationship.
One of the things that I was wondering about while we were watching the film was the cost of the wedding. I didn't look into it, but it did look rather pricey, honestly. I literally this is the tip of the iceberg, is what I'm about to get into, is that ice sculpture.
I've closed my eyes to shut Hailey out.
If you can't handle this heat. Anyway, and it's about ice. I'm so sorry. Okay, so anyway, the ice sculpture is it's kind of going into the visual art aspect of it. But I'll get more into that later. I just wanted to talk about the price. So the ice sculpture was apparently $1,000 just for that. And it's like, I'm trying to think, what is the freaking point? Cause it's like, like one of my favorite, shows, I actually have, a tattoo for this show, Adam Conover's,
Adam ruins everything.
That's it. I can't believe I blanked. But yeah, I have actually tattooed on my hands from that show. And one of the things he talks about in the show is marriage and how the white wedding dress came to be, why cakes typically had white frosting. And it was all because it was just a color that was more expensive to get. And it was really only the wealthy that could get it. And the wealthy just kind of seemed to consistently set trends for the lessers to follow. And I'm just wondering, why would somebody go through the effort of getting an ice sculpture? And if it had no symbolism, Kate didn't really go into religion or anything and what her personal ties to angels were. But I just really can't think of another reason that somebody would have an ice sculpture like that at their wedding, aside from wealth or some type of religious affiliation or something like that. So I'm really confused by why someone would sink $1,000 into that kind of thing. So apparently a half block of ice at 20 inches is $275 each. So then I kind of did the size of about Kate, and it came out to about $1,000. So she had the ice sculpture outside. Guess how long it would have taken that ice sculpture to melt in that heat?
Well, I'm assuming ice sculptors take this into account. So I'm assuming 6 to 12 hours.
4 hours.
Really?
4 hours.
Dang.
Yeah, and that's she was there. She was wearing white, I believe, in that scene. But I highly doubt that was her wedding dress. It looked like just kind of like a sophisticated dress that she would wear on any given day. She looked like a really, put together lady. She was very, I don't want to say Karen, but she is kind of what that stereotype is. But I would say she's more respectable, maybe a bit more, what's the word that, it's naggy, a bit more naggy than I think maybe a Karen would typically be, where it's more but she's like that mixed with shrieky, it's just like that. But that wasn't her wedding dress, which is my point, is that she's setting all this up and then has to go get ready for the wedding and the ceremony. I'm just really confused on the timeline of that. I actually was really confused about that. And I just figured this out too, how long it would take to melt indoors. And I was wondering if you wanted to guess on that as well.
6 to 12 hours.
You're actually pretty close. It's 6 to 9 hours.
Okay, but
yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. The angel does look very similar to the angel that greets Kate in the afterlife. And I'll talk more about angels later when we talk about the visual aspects of the film.
I will also talk about angels later. Yeah.
Cute.
My main point that I want to talk about is the cast of characters, the 4 characters that we have at the center of the story. So,
yeah,
the 2 main characters, Ashley and Henry, 2 main love interests. The 2 main characters are in 2 separate love triangles with the 2 side characters, which I actually find that these side characters are more interesting than our 2 main characters. Can you explain
the love triangles for anybody who hasn't seen the film?
Yeah, our 2 side characters are Kate and Dan. Kate is Henry's fiance. She's killed by the angel statue, so she's the ghost. And Dan is Ashley's quote-unquote gay friend, who turns out to actually not be gay at all and has been lying to her for the past 5 years.
Was it 5?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I want to take a second and talk about these side characters for a second.
Which is Kate and Dan.
Kate and Dan. Yeah. Firstly, with Kate, I perceived her to be a really strong person.
Yes.
Really, she's very organized.
She knows what she wants.
She knows what she wants. She's a go-getter. She is unapologetic.
Yeah.
She's unafraid to speak up and say her opinion.
She won't take less than what she feels she deserves.
Yeah. She was running around and doing everything for her wedding. I assume she didn't have a wedding planner.
Yeah, no, she absolutely did not. She was the wedding planner.
Yeah.
And it needed to be exactly how she wanted or she would not accept it.
So here's an example. From the get-go, she gives very specific instructions to the waiter at her wedding, saying to this waiter to fill the tray with equal parts vegetarian and meat options. But if the waiter sees as the night goes that more people are eating more vegetarian options than meat options, to start filling the tray with more of a vegetarian to meat ratio and vice versa. And this is just a small example of the many things that she does and says to get her way and see her vision through on whatever she deems she needs right in her life.
Yeah, she really overwhelmed the waitress that she was talking to when she gave those instructions. When you listen to her, because it's so out of the blue, because she just comes up and basically goes in her face, and then she just like kind of blinks and she's like stunned, like you just clapped in her face or something. But when you actually take the time to listen to what she said, it's actually not that hard to comprehend why she wants it that way or why she asked for it like that. But I think that like maybe the way that she can be so micromanagey is very off-putting to some people, and she just kind of seems like a person who has like a huge stick in her ass. But when you actually listen to what she wants, then you're like, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense, and I understand where you're coming from and why you would want it like that.
Yeah, and the film portrays her to be very type A, and they portray Henry to be very type B, and I see it as they balance each other. She's the yin to your yang, and etc. But I feel like the movie is trying to make these qualities a bad thing. Like you said, like she's very uptight and all these things, and they're trying to make us see her as a bad thing because she is the villain of the story, and these qualities are the quality of our villain. You're right.
I didn't think about it like that. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the villain maybe is the angel. I want to be straight. Yeah, I think that the villain is actually the angel.
Why do you say that?
Because Kate goes to the afterlife, and yeah, she nags an angel. Like, yeah, okay, but she's just died. And there is I'm personally of the belief that reincarnation is real. So we've done it before. That's what I think is that we've all been here before. But with Kate, she's in her experience and for the sake of this film, she just knows her life, and that's how we'll read it. So she's dead, bro. She wakes up on a medical table in this white room. And she doesn't think angels have wings, or she thinks that angels have wings, and this angel doesn't have wings. So she's just greeted by this crazy lady who's saying all this stuff, not giving her any time to process it. And she clearly still thinks she's alive. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going to be talking about later a little bit, is that Kate is acting like she's alive, and she's not. And I do think that that's kind of a big reason that ghosts tend to stay behind, is that they're confused. They don't understand that they're dead, and they'll react to certain stimuli. Like I've been watching this ghost hunting show just today on Netflix, where they're going into an asylum and they're saying triggering things to the ghost, trying to get a reaction out of them to see if there is even a presence in the house. So I do understand it. I don't believe in triggering anybody dead or alive. So they were saying things to these ghosts like, hey, we're here for your shock therapy. And then they would get, a blast on whatever ghost tech they had. And they would say things like, hey, you better calm down, or I'm going to drag another orderly in here. Then they'd get another reaction. And that's clearly coming from somebody who's got trauma and is reacting to something in their life that happened that they believe is going to happen again in death. So that's kind of, that's what I'm to circle back to Kate.
What a bunch of meanies.
I mean, yeah, I didn't like that. I literally, you were there with me, and I said, stop saying that. Like, I was upset. But
I thought you were saying that like out of their like their own well-being, like don't do that, the ghost is going to hurt you. But you were saying that because you're hurting the ghost.
Yeah, you were triggering someone who was traumatized, you know, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But yeah, anyway, the thing with Kate was she woke up clearly thinking she's still alive, and she pissed off an angel, and the angel was just tired of her shrieking personality and didn't enjoy not being believed that she was in fact an angel, and left her alone without any instructions, when clearly there's a rule book to this, you know, because what happens is Kate, you know, the woman starts disappearing right before her eyes. And that's when it clicks. She's like, I'm getting goosebumps. That's when it clicks for her that she's dead. And the only person who is going to give her help just vanished. And that's heartbreaking. That's absolutely heartbreaking. She comes back to Earth and runs into the asshole who murdered her, killed her, because he was drunk driving. And he didn't load this, like, who knows how heavy this thing was. It crushed her to death. And that's the person who was supposed to help her on her journey. I would be furious. I'd be so mad. And so then she goes on this journey in her monogamous mindset, thinking that she's protecting the love of her life that she never got to marry. And then she just does what she thinks is right, which is he needs to be alone forever. He's mine. And so I think the real villain is the angel.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. Thank you for, because I have a whole thing about the angel later on, but I just want to circle back really quick to the dynamic between Kate and Henry at the beginning, when we're seeing that, oh, she's type A, he's type B, but I think that's a great balance, and their relationship probably works fantastically. I mean, they're getting married, you know, so they obviously love each other. And I
think that Henry, right, called Kate the love of his life.
Yeah.
Right before he, you know, talked to Ashley.
Yeah. So they have a great relationship, and it works, and it's perfect. Well, not perfect, you know, whatever. Anyways.
What relationship is perfect?
Yeah. So the con to this is that her personality ends up being very possessive and controlling. So even in death, she feels the need to have control of a situation. For example, when she encounters the angel for the first time, she's talking over the angel and not letting her get a word in. And the angel asks her to stop talking, and she'll answer her questions. But Kate just keeps on talking over her, trying to get a handle on things her way, not the angel's way. And therefore, the angel leaves frustrated, and Kate ends up not getting any answers, which also comes back to bite her at the end of the story when she meets the angel for the second time. And because she didn't listen to the angel the first time, she doesn't have this quote unquote orb of true light that she didn't know she was supposed to collect from her loved ones. And now the angel leaves again. And so this is another thing, one of the horrifying things in the concept, one of the horrifying concepts in this story that they just treat so lightheartedly, where the angel leaves. And so we're left to assume that now Kate is just left in purgatory forever.
Until she figures out what the hell this orb is. And the person like that was helping the man who crushed her, which I think is just called the sculptor. I don't think he has a name.
Famous actor. I can't remember his name right now. Stephen Root, who's been in Office Space and one of the evil white people in Get Out.
Interesting.
He was the painter that wanted Chris for his eyes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's been in a bunch of things. He's like 70 now or something, but he was in King of the Hill. He was, I forget which one. But yeah.
Famous, okay, word. The sculptor. Yeah. Famous actor, is the sculptor.
Yeah.
So he completes his mission, and it's made aware to Kate that he did listen to the instructions from the angel. And because he's like, oh, well, didn't you hear that in your orientation? And so he's very aware of what he needs to do. And his mission was to help Kate make the right choice in her journey. And, he was done with his mission. So you know that he's no longer going to be of service to her. So you're like, how does she move on?
Yeah. Now, secondly, I want to talk about the other side character that we have, Dan. In the timeline of this part of the love triangle of him with Ashley and Henry. So he starts dating Ashley, and after a week, he's about to kiss her, but then she says to him, I'm so glad you're gay. I could never be this open with a straight man.
And that's crazy. That's why. I don't get that.
I don't get that either. But instead of saying, oh no, I'm actually straight, he just goes along with it for the next 5 years and pretends he's gay.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was good at pretending that he was gay too, honestly. He goes on later and does this like huge monologue about everything that he's sacrificed and all the things that he's paid attention to that are quote unquote gay. Like he says that what he spends $75 on his haircut like bi-weekly now or something like that. He says he pays more attention to fashion when he doesn't necessarily care about that. So I guess things that were more like stereotypically gay during that time frame, like 2008, I think.
That's funny. I thought he did a bad job of looking gay.
So what? I mean, like it looks obvious to us, but I remember when I watched the film the first time, I didn't know he was gay until later, or straight until later.
Really?
Yeah, really. You see it now. It's obvious now. I think it was obvious to Javi and I, both of us. I was familiar with the film, so I knew that, but it felt obvious to me. And Javi had not seen the film. And it was obvious to you as well. But what I thought was convincing was in the beginning of the film, Ashley is trying on clothes in front of him, which is so cringy. It reminds me of one of the Bring It On movies where one of the male cheerleaders pretended to be gay so that he could like hang out in the locker rooms and stuff and like with the girls while they were changing. And I think that's like super skeezy. He did the same thing, and who knows how many times he's been around Ashley while she was or like was changing around him. Like we don't know that.
She said that they took baths together.
And then he said, now do you see how hard it was for me? And I don't know if that joke was on purpose or not.
That definitely was.
Oh my God. Yuck. She's like, we took baths together.
Poor lady.
Yeah, but what I believed was convincing was when they were changing and she literally has her ass like in his face and he's sitting on the couch and she's like, does my ass look fat in this or something? And then she's like jiggling it in front of him and you see him, he's actively not looking. He's looking up in the corner, like not looking at her ass directly at all. And he says, I don't know, how about you get a little closer? I have a little more peripheral vision left. And I thought that was funny. I thought that him not looking was actually respectful. Because like maybe there is part of him who knows that it's really skeezy to be in the position that he's in and try not to transgress the trust or boundaries that she doesn't even know are there because of his lack of authenticity in their connection.
Word. Well, that, you always see the bright side of people. Yeah. I just didn't, I didn't see how anyone could see this dude was gay. The 2000s were a different time. So maybe all you needed was an earring and say you're gay. And
I was thinking like, I know his ear was pierced and I literally looked up which ear was the gay ear. And I think I literally noted, I think it's the left ear. I don't know where I wrote that down, but but I didn't remember which ear he had. And I was like, he's signaling, but is it on the right ear? Yeah, this guy, he also pretends to like cooking and he goes in business with her. He's so bad at it. Did he pretend to like cooking and that's why he did this? Yeah. He's literally so bad at it. Yeah, he wanted to do it so he could, be closer to her. And he's very bad at it, which is shown in not even just bad. It's not like he cooked it and it came out wrong or the cake was flat. He's like burning himself. He doesn't know what certain foods are, which is like, it's complicated stuff because she's a wedding caterer. She's making things like cherry jubilee. I don't even know what that is. She set that shit on fire. I don't know what that was. So it's definitely complicated and I'm not faulting him for not knowing complicated recipes or anything, but he didn't just make it wrong. He literally didn't know what he was cooking while he was cooking it. You would think after 5 years and him doing so much effort to pretend to be gay that he would make a little effort to look up some videos on how to cook. Literally. Or look up a recipe. Yeah, that's his job. Did you see the way he was cutting those carrots? Bro, no, explain to all of us how he was cutting the carrots. He was literally like an axe, like an axe. Ching, 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 ching.
Like, bro, watch your thumb. Yeah, I thought it was a funny scene where it's showing how bad of cooking he is by him catching his arm on fire and then putting it out in a pot of
boiling water.
Hot boiling water and then spilling it all over the floor and then slipping
and on
it.
his body. Yeah. He was the screams. The screams. It's just like a horror film for like 30 seconds while she's talking to somebody for the first time.
Yeah. Jason Biggs is a great comedic actor.
Oh, yeah. He was funny.
Some good slapstick humor always hits with me, at least. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've been trying to wrap my head around his decision to just go along with pretending to be gay. And I think
there are other people out there, dude.
That's what I was thinking, too. It's like, dude, there's plenty of people in the sea, you know? And I think he was just afraid of rejection so much that he would have rather gone along with the lie for years than just taking the hit of rejection in the moment. That's all I can think that makes sense. So what I love about this movie is that it gives these side characters a chance of redemption to change and have an arc and become better people.
I agree.
So Dan at the end is talking with Henry's sister, and instead of making the same mistake he did with Ashley, he instead makes his intentions known, kisses her instead of waiting, and makes it very clear, hey, I'm straight. I'm not gay. I'm straight.
Oh, you're talking about the girl in the end, the sister?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that part. Sorry. I was still on your last thought. I thought that was really thought-provoking, and I got a little lost in the sauce there.
I got you.
Yeah, it was bizarre because they had been talking for less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And when he was just like, yeah, I just want to let you know I'm not gay. That's why you and I, that's why I kissed you.
Yeah. He's a little compensating. Instead of waiting 5 years, he'll go wait 30 seconds now. So, you know, he's got some room to
complete 180 there.
Yeah. And then Kate has the best arc of anyone in this film. One of the best arcs I've seen in a lot of rom-coms. I'll just say that. Kate and Henry both go into a sort of purgatory when she dies. And I understand how scary it must have been for Kate to see Henry about to get out of his purgatory when Ashley came along.
And she's still stuck in hers.
He's going to be happy and forget about me. Right. He's all that I have and I don't want him to leave. So she goes into being very possessive and sabotaging Henry and Ashley's relationship. And she's so good at getting what she wants. And she gets that. But she realizes that what she's doing is actually putting Henry back into this
hell.
Yeah. Depressive purgatory. So she comes to accept that letting him go and helping him be happy is better than having them both be sad and alone. So she helps him and Ashley get back together. I think that's really beautiful. And, you know, the movie does the whole like rom-com trope where the guy runs to the airplane or to the airport to get the girl back before she goes off with the competing love interest. It's so cliche, but it works really well. And even in this story, it has such great writing, this story.
Really?
Yeah, because even with tropes like this, there's still a little twist to them. Like, the love triangle is the love triangle with a ghost, you know?
Yeah.
I haven't really ever seen that.
I was thinking about that because one of the jokes in the film is when Jason, he said, see, this is what you get when you go after a guy whose dead fiance is after you. I've seen it 1,000 times. And
but has he really?
I know. That's exactly the joke, is that he, of course, has not seen it 1,000 times. Yeah. And I realized I hadn't seen it before either. I have never seen a film with this kind of concept before.
Yeah. And it's like the twist that they do on the airplane thing, like the whole device of using the parrot as a guide for Rudd. And
well, go into that for people who haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, you know, she's a ghost and no one can see her or hear her, but animals can. Yeah. So the parrot
a dog sees Kate communicating with Ashley, and the dog barks at her while they're talking, and then Ashley's like, I think that dog can see you. And Kate's like, great, I can't wait to use that against you.
Yeah.
But actually she uses it to help her.
Yeah, she uses the parrot to help her. The parrot
is Henry's pet.
Yeah, probably want a cracker. You know, just repeats everything that a person says, and he hears Eva Longoria saying stuff.
I know I shouldn't like this, but one of my favorite quotes from the parrot was, "Move your fat fingers, Helen." Yeah. When she's being mean. Kate is being mean through the parrot to the person who's helping Henry get a ticket on the plane because she's given the woman who's the attendant is giving Henry some shade for wanting a cheap ticket ASAP, and she's like, that's not at all suspicious.
Yeah, and because of that, of the parrot making that joke about her fingers, she makes him pay like $1,500 for a ticket to Miami.
Why? I thought it was just that much. Is it? No, I thought it was just that much.
Well, he said the cheapest ticket.
Maybe that was just the cheapest ticket.
No, because after that, she gave him an expensive ticket. And
I think she just enjoyed saying the price. Yeah. That's all. I think that was the cheapest ticket.
No, we were shown visually that she did not take his request to give him a cheap ticket. She was lying to him. Because
did you see that on the computer or something?
No, it was the remarks that the parrot gave her and the look that she gave to him. It's like, that's the cheapest ticket. And she was like, mm-hmm.
I personally perceived her as being authentic in her statement. I thought that was the cheapest ticket. I thought she just enjoyed telling him that the cheapest ticket was actually $1,500.
That's all right. We'll go watch it.
I guess we have to. We'll fight about it until then.
Yeah, but little things like that, like little devices like the parrot. There are so many great little catalysts that start scenes that have so many jokes along the line. Like, for example, all they need to do for this scene to work is get the man to the airport and talk to the girl. In that time, because of the parrot device, they have the whole back and forth of the parrot and him first. They go in the taxi cab thinking he's crazy talking to a parrot. Him going
he's like, wait, what did he say to the cab driver? It was like something like, oh, you got your bird with you. And then Henry goes, it's actually my fiance.
Yeah.
And the way the cab driver's like, okay.
Yeah. And then him going to the airport and then with the security guard.
With the bird, and the bird is talking to the attendant.
And the attendant and
says her name. Yeah. like the bird can read her name tag.
That happens so many other times. So there's another one where there's a small catalyst that ignites a whole bunch of jokes in a scene. So when Henry and Ashley are on their first official date, really, when they say to each other, yeah, we're dating.
Oh, during their little stroll.
Yeah, stroll on the pier. They go get some hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
All that needed to happen in that scene was they go get some hot dogs. They say, hey, are we a thing? And they kiss and say, yeah, we're a thing. But instead, it goes to the hot dogs, and he makes a little snarky remark about, hot dogs, blah, blah, so.
What did he say about hot dogs?
He just didn't like that. It was like, like some cheap hot dogs. It's like, they're probably trash. But she's like, no, they're great. He's like,
let's go get some seafood. Yeah. And then the hot dog cart guy was offended.
So then there's a joke with the hot dog guy. And then she gets a little mustard on her dress. And that's a whole joke. And then she's about to throw the tub of mustard on him. And then she accidentally spills the whole tub on herself. And then he takes the hot dog and dips the hot dog in the mustard all over her dress. And then the guy in the hot dog vendor makes a little snarky remark. And then all of a sudden, and they flip to the next scene where she doesn't have the dress anymore and she has an oversized like bad shirt. And he's making jokes about like, I'm not with this German tourist. This is this German tourist right here. I'm not with her. Just one little hot dog device. Yes. Captured seven different jokes.
That's really insightful. I didn't think about, how jokes were ignited in film before.
Yeah, it's a lot of good writing from just one little thing that they put in a scene. The priest, the whole exorcist scene.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I mean, I could just go.
I didn't even give that a second thought. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about that.
I'll go into that little scene a little later. But yeah, there's I could just go on. There's so many different scenes. Yeah, I think this movie has like really great writing. When I was trying to choose my favorite scene, I realized that every scene was memorable for two reasons I dialed down. One is the snappy dialogue that had no filler or throwaway lines. Even the quote unquote meaningless banter between characters was entertaining, at least, and engaging to listen to, or funny or cute, or witty back and forth. But also every scene had some sort of climax or a memorable moment. Like when the priest comes in for an exorcist, Kate slowly is deteriorating away. And the priest, when he figured, Ashley was like, oh, it worked. The priest was like, oh, that worked? Oh, shit. Like he didn't believe that it would work. But then he leaves, and then Kate comes back because she was just messing with Ashley,
She
making
put on
her
a
think it
whole
worked.
show. She disintegrated.
Like the times of
before
sand
her.
were carrying her away or
That's
something.
a really good way to describe it. Yeah, that's what happened. But she was just fucking with her.
Yeah, great writing, great jokes. It had me laughing, chuckling, at least grinning most of the jokes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the film. I don't like, besides Jason Diggs being like pretending to be gay and how like the weird boundary crossings that created, I ultimately was very pleased with it.
Yeah, and this was during the era of the raunchy 2000s comedies.
Yep.
But not one offensive raunchy joke in sight. The only bad humor that I can point out is Kate fat shames Ashley a couple times, saying that
but that's like
she starts to look a little hippie.
Yeah, she does definitely dig on her appearance.
And she says Helen's fat fingers as well.
Yes, that's true. I felt like for me personally, that hit harder than her fat shaming Ashley, because as Ashley is just clearly so thin. That it just makes it seem like she's trying to create some maybe body dysmorphia inside of her mind. But I think that's meant to directly attack her feeling of security so that she feels less attractive when she's encountering Henry in particular. So that was like manipulation, maybe more so than anything. But yeah, definitely like it's what's coming out is the mindset that, thin is in, which it was at the time.
Yeah. And that's also one of the quotes in the movie where Henry is talking to his sister in the veterinarian office, and his sister is like, I got this girl, go on a date with her. And he's like, I don't want to go out with her anyway. Well, what if I told you? And she basically describes like the 2000s beauty standard: skinny, big tits, likes football, will cook for you and do all these things and blah, blah. And the perfect ideal woman is what she was describing.
But she also said that she works in the Peace Corps, and in her meantime, she like saves dolphins. Like she didn't just describe like just a stereotypical like woman. I think even nowadays, if you had a description like what the sister said, anybody would be like, okay, set me up.
Yeah. She described it as an impossible person.
Yeah.
But even that, so even when when Kate comments to Ashley that you're looking a little hippie, this is still also another catalyst that sets up a lot of funny moments in the scene, because
like
this
the scene in the
causes
gym.
Ashley to go to a gym.
Yep.
And she's taking a shower at the gym. And then Kate, because Ashley, only animals and Ashley can hear Kate and see her and everything. So Kate pretends to be a voice on an intercom at the gym that says there's a poisonous gas leak and everyone needs to evacuate. So
very deep.
Yeah. So Ashley runs away naked into the gym floor where everyone can see her, and they're just staring at her like she's crazy. And she's like, what? The poisonous gas leak. And one of the gym people are like, what? On the intercom? What? There's no intercom. And she realizes what happened. And it's very embarrassing for her and very funny for us. But that's about the only time.
And then Kate walks by. That's my favorite part of the scene, because she walks by in a white gym outfit, which I actually do want to get into her clothing as a ghost. But she walks by in a white gym outfit, throws a towel over her shoulder, and then says in the same deep voice over the intercom, "Stairmaster's open, for you." And she's like slaps her ass a little bit and walks away.
Yeah. Well, what about her clothing did you want to talk about?
God. Okay. Yeah, no, honestly, I wanted to talk about ghost clothes. I learned a new word called ghost lore. All right. It seems pretty explanatory, but it's not a word that was in my vocabulary until I researched for this film. So in ghost lore, descriptions of ghosts vary widely, from an invisible presence to translucent or barely visible shapes to realistic or lifelike forms. They are known to haunt places, objects, or people. And note that Kate appears in both Henry and Ashley's apartment, which I thought was interesting, because when, like I just said, when ghosts haunt objects, places, or people, what exactly is Kate haunting? You know what I mean? And I realized that the first time that we are introduced to the idea that Kate has arrived is during, I'm getting goosebumps again, the first scene with Henry and Ashley when they're trying to channel Kate for the first time. And then Ashley, I think they're holding hands across the table with a candle in between them. And Ashley says to Henry, channel Kate and like feel her, like trying to connect with her. And all of a sudden the flame in between them grows maybe 4 or 5 inches and then disappears. And then I think that's when the scene was interrupted by Ashley's assistant, Dan. And then she goes to step away from that.
Well, the lights also pop in the kitchen where Dan is working.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They go crazy like the candle did.
I didn't catch that. Yes, you're right. Okay, yes. So that happened in Ashley's apartment, but then Kate goes on to not only be at the gym, she goes in her apartment and she goes to Henry's apartment. And then you also see her just walking around, storming around the city. So I just thought that was really interesting because it doesn't really sound typical of how people seem to experience ghosts.
I mean, it kind of worked then. Like the reading, like Henry and Ashley trying to communicate with the dead, and Henry was like channel her, Henry.
Yeah.
And boom, that's like they made a connection into Earth again.
Yeah.
And that's how she started appearing.
It's very interesting because it's like when an angel sets up a mission for you in this world, do they already know what's going to happen in the future to what goal you need to do? Like, what would that angel have told Kate when she died a year ago when Henry comes to move on, if that was her first interaction with Earth? It's just, so yeah, it's a little bizarre. I find that personally bizarre, but
maybe that's just a plot hole.
That's what I was about to say though, is that the rules are set up in this world and that's how it works. It doesn't necessarily need to match how things work in reality. That's not really how film works. So, I just noticed that and I thought that was interesting based on ghost lore. That was cool. I also find it bizarre that, Kate was given a mission that we understand is to, in the end is to help Henry move on, but literally why is that her responsibility? I was just thinking about that too. I was wondering what you thought about that when I was writing this down. Like, why is that her responsibility to help Henry move on? Like, he's an adult. You know what I mean?
That's not her responsibility.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. She put that responsibility on herself because she was just jealous.
Or she was trying to figure out what her mission was because her ghost murderer told her that she had a mission. She found this guy in I don't even know. She was just strolling around.
He was on the street.
He was hanging out too. And she's like, yeah, what's your mission? And or something like that. And she just thought that they were lost before he told her that she had something to do. And then she goes, okay, I know what my mission is. And she made one up. But yeah, so I was thinking about that. I was wondering hypothetically, if that was her mission, if it was literally so important for her to help Henry, what would have happened if she hadn't?
Maybe that's what the orb of true light that the angel was talking about was. I know it's probably just like a funny gag, throwaway line, but
no, we're taking it seriously.
Yeah, think about it. If you try to make a Venn diagram about the things that were similar between the ice sculptor and Kate, that they both needed to help people that were wronged, basically. So maybe this orb
who was wronged in Kate's world.
Well, she was wronging Henry. And
she wronged Henry when she tried to help him. But what do you mean before that though? Because what was her mission?
Well,
that's what I don't know.
The ice sculptor wronged Kate.
Obviously.
And Kate wronged Henry after she died. The ice sculptor and Kate both disappeared back to the angel place after they helped out the people they wronged. And that's the similarity that I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's just interesting how that was set up to be her responsibility to help Henry move on, because I think based on how the movie how the movie was playing out, removing Kate as a ghost entity altogether, removing Kate's character from this film. What happened in the film was Henry was depressed after his wife passed away. His sister set up a meeting with him and a psychic. The psychic, in the end, because their eyes were closed when that candle got larger, and then vanished, and she wasn't privy to seeing the lights flicker. She was not aware that a ghost had touched base in her apartment. So in her perspective, nothing happened. And she ended up not charging Henry for that service. And Henry felt bad about that and wanted to pay for it, but she refused it because, she just thought it was unethical. And that's how it went. So in their perspective, nothing happened. In Ashley's perspective, nothing happened. So then Henry goes back to being his depressed self in his apartment, but the sister finds the diary still with or without Kate as a character. And then she gives that diary to the psychic, who then effectively proves with this diary that, she's made contact with Kate, and Kate told her all this sensitive information about their relationship. And then they start, getting a little closer through their connections, and all of a sudden they're dating. And then Kate would not have intervened because she was not a character, and they would have gotten married because that's what ended up happening anyway. So where is the Henry needs help to move on thing? Was it just because, and I listened to an interview with Eva Longoria, and her perspective of the role of Kate in this film was that Kate's lesson was that she needed to let go. So I'm not thinking that it was her mission was to help Henry move on. Her mission was literally only to let go of Henry, I think is what her mission was set out to be.
Well, we'll take it from the words of the person who studied this character and acted as the character then.
Yeah, but it's also like, I took that with a grain of salt because it's all ultimately perception and perspective. And that's how she chose to play the character. That's not necessarily how we have to interpret it, or maybe even what the writers meant when they wrote it, or if they even thought about it that deeply, Hey,
you know what? It doesn't matter really. I don't think it really matters to some point, to some degree, doesn't really matter what the artist or the writer says they wrote this about. It's ultimately how the art affects you anyway. So
yeah,
it just matters what you think of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting that I don't like, now that we've talked about it, I don't think that was her mission to begin with. I don't like, if the angel actually told her, you have a mission, I don't think it would have been to help Henry. That's just how she perceived it. I think her mission was to move on. That's all. Because she was stuck, maybe. I mean, anybody would be. You died on your wedding day. Yeah, you had a lot of life to live. She was young.
Yeah.
So circling back to ghost lore, my understanding of spirits is in order for them to manifest as strongly as Kate did in this film, the energy needs to be seriously strong, which usually stems from rage. So I was thinking about that because I actually had a talk with a good friend of mine, an ex-coworker who was very into spirituality, and told me something that I found seriously interesting. And I do believe what she said, and it rings true in other things I've observed about spirituality or just life in general. And she was telling me, she's talking to me about vibes, vibrations, frequencies that people give off and things like that, and how we can stay high vibration with certain practices. And the practices that she was communicating to me about were gratitude. And she actually told me that gratitude is one of the highest frequencies that you can have. So if you constantly stay in that state of gratitude, then I think that I'm not religious. How I perceive God is creation, and it's something that I've kind of stepped more into. I think that God is in everything. It's in all things in creation, and in a way we have powers as well to influence the world around us, like through what we speak, what we think. I think that that's all power. I think there's a lot of power in it, and I think that gratitude does exhibit a very high vibrational frequency that people can feel. I'm getting goosebumps again. This is really cool stuff. And so I think I learned through that conversation, or maybe through someplace else, that another high vibrational frequency is fear. And is rage, I think, too. And that's why I think that a lot of the times when you hear about stories of demonic entities or spirits, they try to go after children. I think that's for a couple of reasons. I think it's because, children just came from the afterlife. So they're closer to that portal, that world, than adults are who have experienced life for a little longer and are more away from the afterlife. And I also think it's because children are easy to scare, and they're going to put a really high vibration out there. And I think that entities and spirits, demonic entities, all feed off of that, and it makes them stronger and stronger. So that's what my understanding is of ghosts.
You kind of explained the whole logic between Monsters Inc. right there.
What?
Yeah.
You freaking kill me. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. So what I'm curious about is because in this film, Eva or Kate, she doesn't just make a light blaze. She doesn't just tinker with the lights in the kitchen or make a breeze or scratch you like apparently some demonic entities seem to do. She manifested flesh and blood in front of this person. But there was a scene where Ashley tried to reach for Kate, and Kate was like, "No, I can't, because I'm contagious. I'm sick, and you don't want this." And she's like, "Okay." So she said, "Don't touch me," because she thought if she was touched, maybe she wouldn't feel anything. And Ashley threw keys to Kate to see if she could catch them, and they went right through her. So, but yeah, that's my point though, is that she manifested 100% in front of Ashley and had full-fledged conversations like she was in the room. And I just thought that was really interesting because my understanding, once again, of ghosts is that it takes a lot of energy for them to do that. And I did read a story when I was a teen. I used to read a lot of stories about, like teen love and stuff. And there was a very interesting ghost story where I think it was a girl who had passed away, and she described her ghost experience in this book as, she worked really hard. It took a lot of energy and a lot of power for her to manifest in the world in certain aspects, in certain ways. And when she put that much energy into it, she basically fell into a void, into a sleep. And she was gone. She doesn't know for how long, just enough time to maybe regain the energy that it takes to be present amongst humans again, or people who are alive. So, I just thought it was really interesting that Eva or Kate's character was so strong, because I get that she's furious. She is mad, but she's as mad as, any woman who, it's like the kind of anger that you sense from her character is not like rage, fucking rage. It's not like that. It's like you're out at a bar in a monogamous relationship and you see your man checking out some girl's ass and you're like, hey, what the hell? It's not like it doesn't come off as serious as I think it would take for that kind of energy to manifest. So I just thought that was really interesting too. This is the part about ghost outfits. There's no set answer for how people have perceived ghosts or what people think ghosts look like. But I did find this one story online that said they had an experience with an apparition in a World War I uniform who died at the Battle of Somme and was buried in Texas. And he showed up in his home place in I'm just going to say Virginia. He showed up in his home place of Virginia, still wearing his uniform, and he asked her, "Am I home?" His mother also haunted the same home, and she died at 80 years old and appeared to her as a young woman with a messy brown bun. So some people believe that ghosts' thoughts can interfere with their outward projection of how a human interprets their presence.
So if the ghost can think of, I'm going to manifest myself in this specific way, they can.
That's what I'm kind of getting, how they perceive themselves to be. So in this movie, Kate changed her outfit maybe like 8 times. And like, there's this like funny concept going around that I've been exposed to in my social media platforms, that like you got to dress your best every single day because today might be the day you die and that's your ghost outfit. And it makes you think twice. And I actually been investing in some muumuus recently, and it makes me feel very ghost-like when I wear them. And I do hope that maybe I pass away in the night and I get to wear one of my kick-ass muumuus with all my cool little tattoos. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting because when you see ghosts typically portrayed, or how you would think a ghost to be, they usually come to you in one form and stay in that form. But Kate consistently changed her outfit and changed her hair. And I just thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for letting me go on that huge tangent about ghosts. I'm sorry I took you away from what you wanted to say about your characters.
No, thank you, because I knew you were going to talk about ghosts, so I specifically did not research anything about ghosts. I knew you were going to do that. Yeah, it's just these two side characters I think were much more interesting to think about than the two leads. Because they were charming, because it's Paul Rudd and Kay Bell. They had, because they're twisted, like Ashley and Henry. They're both twisted in ways that are more comprehensible, but Dan and Kate are twisted in ways that are really hard to understand, and that makes them juicier. How are they twisted? Oh, well, okay. So Kate is manipulating, directly sabotaging a relationship between her ex-partner and this new girl. That's toxic in any aspect. It doesn't really matter how you look at it. And that's also something I'm concerned about, is that she's not standing for Henry's happiness and his future going forward. Like, she's very short-sighted in her thinking about this. What she wants him to be alone so she can be with him, or she can be miserable with him. Like, it's just like she's only really thinking about herself in that. So you really have to do backflips to understand her thought process. And it's the same with Dan. You have to do backflips to understand why he pretended to be gay for 5 years. Yeah, backflips. But with Henry and Ashley, you don't really have to do all that thinking to understand their behavior. There were some things that they did or said that was like, you were like, but you didn't have to go, and think and process it for as much time as we have. And we still don't entirely comprehend why they did what they did. So I understand what you're saying, that these characters are interesting. And I think that's why. Yeah. And, like the two leads were charming because it's Paul Rudd and Kay Bell. I love Paul Rudd. Yeah. They slay all day. And their chemistry when they were together was very cute and funny because of the dialogue. That's how they were written. Wait, one of my favorite scenes between Henry and Ashley was when Ashley decided to stand up for her relationship to Henry and ignore Kate's ghost and pursue him anyway. She shows up at his veterinary office in a red dress, and then she's like, oh, hey, thanks for the soup you gave me. He's like, oh yeah, you're alive, that's great, and then she's like, yeah, your soup saved my life. And then she gives him this like awkward hug. And then when she goes to kiss him, she kisses him and then doesn't make eye contact as she pulls away, looks at the ground, and then just kind of like walks away. Yeah. And I said that to you when we watched it. I found that so relatable. And I think it's really interesting to go into the awkward aspects of a new connection. Like I dated someone, I think I actually brought him up in a previous podcast, where I was really nervous around him. And when we'd go in to hug, it just felt like we were doing hugs wrong, or I would be so nervous about wanting to hug him, or that I felt like I needed to hug him and I wanted to, that I would like not do it. And it felt like I should have. And so there's just like a lot of like weird missteps. It's kind of like when you go to dance with somebody, you're stepping on their toes, and that's what dating can feel like sometimes. And I just personally really appreciate that they went into the awkward aspect of a newer connection. Yeah. So I'm talking about, this is good writing. But the characters themselves of Henry and Ashley, I thought were just kind of boring. They were like nice people and generally likable, which is a good thing for a character to be, so that the audience will be on board for them winning. It just lacked a little dimension to them. I disagree. I think that they had dimension, and I thought they were cool. Like Henry's, because you think about this laid back guy going for this anal woman, and you got to think, well, what's up with you? You twisted
fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought he was, I think he's funny and stuff. And I think that, well, like, isn't there like this running joke about how comedians typically are like really dark, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think that there is depth to him. And then with Ashley, she's got this like psychic ability. She literally can talk to ghosts. Like, how is that not deep? We can stop there with her. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I was just comparing them to the side characters, and I think the side characters are ultimately more interesting than the leads.
Well, they're villains too, bro.
Yeah, you would think that the leads would be more interesting than the side.
I think villains are generally more interesting than the protagonists, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, I have some fun facts. Some original titles for this film. There are two. How I Met My Boyfriend's Dead Fiancé. Can you rate that for me out of 1 to 5? What do you think about that? How I Met My Boyfriend's Dead Fiancé.
Well, that is more intriguing than Over Her Dead Body.
I don't like it. I think it's a 1. I think Over Her Dead Body is cool because how you were kind of talking about a trope and then a twist on it. And that's what they like. Sometimes I like to write poetry. Sometimes I like to write lyrics to songs. And I've noticed that there's a pattern too for creating those types of poems is that you can take something common, put a twist on it, and all of a sudden it's something that everyone connect to. And it's like there's this element of aha or a surprise to it that makes everyone think that you're this creative genius. So I think Over Her Dead Body is more creative and better. But I'm very surprised that was your reaction to it. Do you?
Yeah, I think Over Her Dead Body is more successful for the piece of art that is. But if I was reading DVD titles on a shelf,
How I Met My New Boyfriend's Dead Fiancé.
That's a movie I would rather watch.
Interesting. What do you think about the second one? Ghost Bitch.
Yeah, that sounds like one of the shitty horror films that Eric likes.
I'm thinking
Eric is Hailey's father.
Yes.
So and he likes schlocky horror, crappy horror movies. Camp is his thing.
Not good taste, this man.
Yeah. Ghost Bitch definitely sounds
like something he would watch.
Camp, straight up.
Yeah, it does. It's reminding me of a Ghost Rider with the flaming skulls. I always just thought that was dumb, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Some people might find that really cool. I guess Javi finds it really cool.
We're about to lose some listeners.
Oh, am I about to lose a fiance?
Nah.
So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It was released February 1st, 2008. I thought it was really interesting that I keep saying interesting a lot. I thought it was cool that 50 First Dates and this movie were both released in February. I think there must be a pattern, of rom-coms being released around Valentine's Day.
Get the couples to go out to the theater together.
It's sweet. The budget was $10 million. And made $21.5 million at the box office. Mm-hmm. So doubled it.
It made some profit.
Yeah.
Everybody got paid. Even though most people didn't like this, apparently. I saw so many bad reviews and ratings for this film.
I can see that. I get it.
Not very critically received. But I thought it was very solid in the writing. Very clever, I thought this film was. I really don't agree with most of the bad ratings that I saw on there. A lot of people were saying, oh, the characters didn't have any chemistry together. I thought the exact opposite.
I thought, yeah, well, they were awkward, like how I described. But I think that in itself is chemistry.
I thought that was like, it's on purpose. Like you're showing like awkward moments that happen in the foundations of a great relationship. And they had that date too. And I think they they really cute. Connected and... Yeah,
I found it to be believable. I've definitely seen worse.
That's the whole thing of this movie where it's good writing, but the actors are even better. So it's like the writing is entertaining and it's witty and it's cute and it's funny, but the actors really sell it. And shoot, you got charismatic people like Paul Rudd and Eva Longoria, who every time Eva Longoria is on the screen, it's electric. That's the star of this film. Every time Paul Rudd is saying his cute charmings on Kate Bell, I mean, you're in it to win it. We love it. And Jason Biggs is hilarious. Like, I don't get what the people were saying about bad dialogue and bad actors and everything. I don't get it. I don't agree. with the people.
I don't agree with the people either, but we never seem to agree with the people.
I really can't wait to see what Letterboxd says later.
Oh, Kate and Henry saw each other on their wedding day. That's bad luck.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Bad luck. And then she died.
That's why. Because they broke tradition.
Do you want to know why that's a tradition?
Why?
Okay, I got it. So it emerges from the 18th century when prearranged marriages were commonplace, and it was deemed as unlucky as an attempt to keep the groom from seeing the unidentified bride and backing out of the wedding.
Wow. You know, that we were just having a conversation earlier about, not earlier today, but in the past week or so, that, you know, these people will get engaged and get married and plan the wedding, and it will be like so quick. It'll be like, 6 months or a year from now, let's go get married. But we got engaged, and
2020.
We waited for 4 years.
2024.
Yeah, I was so confused because people
we got engaged less than 2 months into our relationship. I want to tell them that story real quick. I love telling it. So Javi and I were chilling on the bed, in that sweet little NRE honeymoon phase, and I actually proposed to my boyfriends a lot. Javi's the only one who said yes.
I didn't say yes. She asked me, "Hey, do you want to get married?" And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
Sure.
He said, "Okay."
And she made it Facebook official, so I couldn't get out of it.
No, I was like, "Wait, really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Are you serious? Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And I was like, okay. So then I made it Facebook official so he couldn't back out. Yeah. Because once you make it Facebook official, it's serious. And it was so funny. My mom's reaction always kills me because, I tell this story too. I think it's kind of funny because Javi and I do like to break traditions and do things our own way. And we think it's cool to do that. And my mom, she cracked me up because, in the past we had conversations about, if somebody asked for my hand in marriage, then they should ask for the blessings of the parents. And I was really strongly opinionated in that, that doesn't matter. Because I realized too recently, within the last year or so, because I was having a turmoil about my stepdad or my dad walking me down the aisle. And I was really concerned about the feelings of the people involved and, what I should do. And I kind of resolved to just walk alone down the aisle. And I thought that was maybe what was best. And I'm still playing with that idea, trying to figure out what I want. That might be actually what I end up doing. But I talked to my dad about it because ultimately I was probably going to just go with my biological father. And I was concerned about how that would make my stepdad feel. But when I talked to my dad, and I realized as I was talking to him that the act of having your father walk you down the aisle to your future husband is about women being seen as property. And it's about placing ownership into the husband. And once I realized that, I was like, screw this. I was very sound in that now, but I ultimately do whatever I want to do. That's my point. But so circling back to tradition, my mom was like, "Oh, you need to get blessings and stuff, that's what matters." And then I realized no, it doesn't matter. And that's ultimately about ownership and property, that placement of now she's my daughter and my property, now she's your property. And I really didn't like that. And, my parents are never going to be able to have that much say in my life, especially when it comes to who I choose to spend my life with. And then I also thought about, it's like that Bruno Mars song, I'm going to marry her anyway. I think that's literally what anybody would do if you got, you went out of your way to talk to your potentially future partner's parents to try to get their blessing, and then they say no. That's not going to stop anybody. So all it is tradition that doesn't ultimately mean anything because people are going to do what they want anyway. There's no respect in that. It's almost like the parents are obligated to say no. They can't be authentic in what they want to say. And if they are authentic, they're just going to drive a rift between them and their daughter, their son, and their partner. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I can't remember why I brought all that up.
Yeah. So I was just,
Oh, it was
so
bad luck we were talking about.
yeah. So I'd be confused every time that I'd see movies where, they decide to get married, and then at the altar, they're like, after they do all the preparations for a wedding and do all the rehearsal dinner and the bachelor parties and all this stuff, that at the altar, they're like, oh, wait, no, actually, I don't want this. And they run away because they had so little time to prepare for everything. And they were just so rushed to have a wedding. And when they finally get that moment to breathe and think about what they're doing, they back out at the last second because they realize, oh, I'm making a horrible mistake.
I just spent $1,000 on an ice sculpture.
Or my parents paid $100,000 for this wedding.
Oh my God. Pay my tuition first, dude.
Jesus.
Pay my loans.
Yeah. Take a couple years if it's going to be the person you spend the rest of your life with anyways.
I mean, honestly, if you want to spend your life with somebody, taking a couple years to plan the wedding shouldn't scare you. Take that time to breathe. Take that time to enjoy it. Like, Javi and I have truly so enjoyed calling each other our fiance for 4 years. It's been great. And you know what else is great? What's great about it? I talked to my sister just yesterday, and I told her that, when I say, oh yeah, this is my boyfriend, people aren't going to be like, congratulations. When I say, oh, this is my husband, people aren't going to say, congratulations. They're just gonna say hi. But when you say, hey, this is Javi, this is my fiance, they go, oh my God, you're getting married. Yeah. Yes, I am.
Even when we're married, we should just keep saying that to get those reactions.
Yeah. So yeah, break traditions. It's fun. Oh my gosh. Castiel, the actor who plays Castiel from Supernatural, was in this film, and he played a creepy date. And he tried to get Ashley to invite him in for coffee.
Oh yeah.
At in the PM and 8 p.m. I was like, guy,
it's not coffee.
What are you doing? Castiel, stop.
He wants the coffee bean minus the coffee.
Ew. I hate that. You're fired. No. Okay, yeah. So that's my notes. And I just thought it was interesting that, they broke the tradition of seeing each other, and then she died.
Yeah. But still,
I don't want to see
tradition.
you on our wedding day. I actually want to keep that tradition because I like surprises.
Oh wait, let me take back that tradition part.
No, some traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you have any thoughts on the music for this film, Javi?
Well, it's like with most 2000s rom-coms, it's just like regular 2000s tracks, pop, a little bit of rock tracks, nothing really crazy.
I literally can't remember a single song I heard in this film.
Well, there's that montage with the All-American Rejects song, Move Along.
I love All-American Rejects.
That's what you said during the movie, too.
That's funny.
You said it both times, actually.
I feel like Lucy in 50 First Dates when you tell me things like that.
Yeah. But yeah, that, great drums on that track. I loved it. Made me want to get up and play it myself. Mm. But the only really notable thing that happened with the music is that anytime, it happened about 4 or 5 times, but anytime that Kate did some ghostly shit, or whenever Ashley communicated with the dead, an angelic choir would start chanting along with that supernatural event that was happening on screen.
That's very interesting. I didn't notice
that. So I appreciated that aspect to the movie.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. The music composer for the movie really didn't do much notable things in his career. Just kind of just did like regular things, at least from what I saw on his wiki. But he had that little stroke of genius right there. Yeah. What about the visual things?
Okay. So when it comes to the visual aspects, the things that I wanted to talk about in this film were the ice sculpture, and learned a little bit about how that was created and how much the ice was costing, how long it would take to melt. And that was really interesting for me. But mostly I wanted to talk about the angel. I don't really have, I think, personally the capacity to talk about the way film looks. I can talk about opinions, and I took a film and narrative class in college and stuff, but I don't really think that makes me I can't talk about film the way you can talk about film. I can talk about art, You know what I mean? So the only art that I felt was in the film was that ice sculpture, and the whole thing about the angel having wings was such a big thing that I just really wanted to talk about how angels have been depicted in art historically, and how they're depicted in the Bible, or at least like in the Christian ones. But I learned another new word, angelology. The study of angels.
Like wombology, the
Yeah.
study of wombo.
So any angels out there, you all are, let's be real, but some of you actually have that name, Angel.
Shout out to our friend Angel.
And shout out to our other friend, Adriel. The angel I'm going to talk about is Hadriel, which I communicated with them, and it was so cool because I met them right after I had done research for this podcast. And I said, oh my God, you're named after that like angel. And then they were like, nobody ever gets that. And it's like I studied to meet you, honestly. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about a Jewish angel. I think it was maybe Hebrew. So in the sculptor's depiction of an angel, which I thought was really interesting too, that he chose to do an angel without wings. If I was a sculptor, and somebody commissioned me to make an image of an angel, I would include wings. And I'm kind of like, and I understand that the sculptor was correct, because in this world, angels didn't have wings. And there was that whole thing with Kate in heaven being like, no, you're not real, because angels have wings. And she just like kept saying that. So he wasn't wrong in his interpretation of an angel in this world. But what do you think about him choosing to not add wings? Because ultimately he lost his commission because he chose not to do it.
Oh, well, as a business move, like, that's a dumb move.
Yeah.
He was right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he seems to just be a drunk dude that doesn't really have a good handle on life and is bad at his job and ultimately kills someone on the job. So he was just a bad sculptor. It looked like quality work.
Yeah,
but he literally forgot that, in our world, obviously, angels are perceived to have wings, and Renaissance paintings, even all the way back then, like, angels have wings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I think that if I were commissioned to make a sculpture of an angel, I would have included wings. And he did ultimately lose the potentially $1,000 commission and wasted all of that ice because he didn't do what she wanted and she refused to pay for it. So yeah, I mean, like, power to her. She didn't sacrifice her vision because somebody was too dumb to understand what she needed or what she wanted when she communicated it to him. So yeah, I thought that was it was an interesting artistic choice, and he stood by it too, which is not something to spit at either. I was thinking about the way that angels, like I said, have been depicted throughout history, and they've been described very bizarrely, actually. So this is from Matthew's 18:10. Each had 6 wings. With 2, he covered his face. With 2, he covered his feet. And with 2, he flew. It's quite an image. 6 wings doing all that at once. It was very interesting. And then this is from Ezekiel 10:12. Their whole bodies, backs, hands, wings were full of eyes, round and about. That is a bizarre image.
That sounds like a demon.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think back to Midnight Mass and its portrayal of angels. And
well,
no spoilers alert for anyone that hasn't watched Midnight Mass.
Okay.
But they depict angels in a very different way.
Yes.
But I will say this. Their angels have wings.
He does. He flew.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the angelology of different religions, a hierarchy of angels is a ranking system of the angels. The higher ranks have more power or authority over lower ranks, and different ranks have different appearances, like varying numbers of wings or faces. Cherubim, which is I think I'm saying that right, are, like the cherubs, like the little angel babies. And they're described apparently biblically or in other religions as having 4 faces. A face of an ox, a lion, an eagle, and a man. It's very different from the little babies that we see in some older paintings. So I thought that was really interesting. There's like a lot of different ways that angels have been described. So for him to just not include wings is it's not so bizarre, but it's obviously not how we see them. And it's so funny because in that one interview with Eva Longoria, she was saying, I prefer to see the angel as wings. It was almost like she was her character when she was talking about that. And I just thought that was actually pretty funny. So I was actually trying to think when I was introduced to this information on the hierarchy of angels, which I do think, like, based on what I have seen in terms of how biblical stories come out in cinema, because I have not read the Bible. I've just been exposed to certain stories through the media that I consume. And one of the things that I think about is supernatural, because that's obviously such a huge arc within a biblical storytelling, and there are ranks of angels that they actually delve into, and they delve into the relationships between the angels and how they're related as a family, and how, like, you know, that's like as above so below kind of aspect, where there's this fight between Lucifer and Michael, and that manifests between Sam and Dean on Earth, and they have the same type of battle. So I think that's very interesting, and that's how it's manifested in the media that I've seen. So I was trying to understand what level the angel was who was represented in the sculpture and who greeted Kate in death, because they did seem very similar, didn't they? They had the same type of hair. How did the sculptor describe her as like soulful eyes who have seen like 10,000, like with 10,000 years of wisdom or something like that? I don't even know. And when I was trying to understand the ranking, I landed on Hadriel, who is an angel in Jewish, I was right, angelology, assigned as a gatekeeper at the second gate of heaven. So I didn't even think about that, how there could be multiple gates. You know, you got to make sure that heaven is secure, right? So there's gate 1 and there's gate 2, and Hadriel is the second gatekeeper.
Good, I know that. I knew how to get through gate 1, but I didn't realize they were going to have a second one for me. Yeah, that kind of puts a little fork in your plans there. Because we all know where you're going, baby. Nah. So Hadriel is a douche, in my opinion, in this story, in the same way that the angel in Kate's story is a douche. So I think that probably the angel that is conversing with Kate is much lower in hierarchy than Hadriel is, because she's someone who tells the person their mission or greets them when they're dead. It almost seems like a cashier. You know what I mean? Is someone who greets a lot of people in a similar mannerism and gives them the lowdown and then moves on, versus the keeper of a gate. But this is something that someone with a higher rank, higher authority, higher power, typically we associate people with those roles to be more responsible, to be more mature, things like that. And in this story, he absolutely wasn't. So in this story about Hadriel, it's a small story, but Hadriel himself is actually not so small. He is described as being 2.1 million miles tall. Okay.
Isn't that crazy? Let's go
play for the Lakers.
So he met Moses when Moses arrived to heaven to get the Torah from God. And Hadriel did not think that Moses should have the Torah. Maybe he wasn't worthy. And Hadriel scared Moses so much that Moses cried. And that made God show up and reprimand Hadriel. And I thought that was very interesting. So it kind of, to me, I'm perceiving that this kind of mischief, it seems present among angel stories, you know, like they're kind of as silly as we are, is what I'm getting. So they just kind of really do seem to enjoy messing around with humans. And I just wonder why that is.
I don't know. Well, that kind of actually goes into what my favorite quote of the story is. Angels have wings. That's my favorite quote. We watched this movie twice, and the first time I watched it, it was funny, you know. But the second time I watched it, it actually made me think really deeply. And you know what I said at the beginning when you asked me to read the description, and I kind of just made up my own thing. That was my own rambling thoughts on that quote. So let me read to you that beginning again. So, you know, I put some funny things in the beginning and the end, but in the middle is where I contemplated a little bit deeply. So, do angels have wings? Not the one who killed Kate on her wedding day. Do angels have wings? Not the one who meets her in the afterlife. Maybe it's not the wings that makes an angel, but perhaps it's the happiness that we give the ones that we love that lets us fly. Maybe it's when we let the ones we love fly away that makes us an angel. Maybe it's all true, but Kate doesn't care. She won't let Ashley get her hands on Henry, not even over her dead body. So that's the funny part of it. But so let me expand on that a little bit. So I like that quote because it's kind of going into the idea that you said before about God and perception of what he is, or what those energies are. Those perceptions that we have of angels are very vastly different. And what this movie shows is that sometimes it's not what we perceive. So she thinks angels have wings, but obviously in this story, angels do not have wings. And when I was a kid, I perceived God to be this big bearded white man in the sky. And as I grew, I started thinking that these majestic, unearthly powers were just to be the universe itself in a non-human form, more of energy instead of an actual being.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah, and that's kind of true in this story. Kate perceives angels to be humans with wings, but by the end of it, I see the man who was responsible for her death getting his own set of metaphorical wings by righting the wrong in his life and becoming an angel himself. Or at least I'm perceiving that he finished his mission and he was able to become an angel.
I don't know if that is what happens.
Even though you want to look at him and see an angel, and then Kate is possessive and damaging to Henry's happiness, but by the end of the story, she rights her wrong and at least is given the chance now to earn her quote unquote wings. And interestingly enough, you know, I've always perceived angels to be peaceful, loving, and calm and nice and natured, and like how you saw.
I think they got wrath, dude.
How you said in your story, like there's some mischievousness in them, and in this story, the actual angel of the story shows feelings of frustration and anger, and decide, you know what, this lady ain't worth my time, and just leaves, which to me is against my perception of what I thought angels were. So I like when stories reveal things about us and our perceptions about the world and life, and I like having new perceptions like that. It makes me rethink. Makes me rethink.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. What's your favorite quote?
Okay, so my favorite quote is once again a monologue, and it was the scene where Kate and Ashley meet for the first time.
So, you talk to dead people? Well, I can't promise results, but yes, I have had some success.
Comes in nice and clear, huh? No mistaking it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Great, can't wait.
All right, so the first thing I'm gonna have you do is give me your hands.
We probably shouldn't because I'm coming down with a cold.
Okay. Great. Okay, this is what we'll do then. Why don't you concentrate on your friend, okay? And let's try to see if she can come through to us.
You're the psychic.
Great. Yeah. Wow, I'm getting something.
Ashley Clark, you have made a mockery of the gifts you've been given.
Kayleen?
You speak falsely for the dead. We have been sent here to give you a warning. Stop now or suffer a terrible fate.
Is this some sort of joke?
This is no joke. We see and hear everything. We saw you drop the tray of meatballs last night and still serve them. We saw what you did in the shower last night. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, but we still saw. And we see what you're trying to do to Henry Mills.
I am
You,
just...
of all people, should know the consequences of defaming the dead. Leave Henry Mills alone, or you will never find peace again.
You will lose your possessions.
Your friends, and eventually your life.
This is the only time we will visit you.
Yeah. That is my favorite scene of the film. I love that scene so much because Eva Longoria just has this insane over the top performance with the double, triple voices layered on top of her, lower octaves, higher octaves, weird voices on top, and it's juxtaposed against Kate Bell's like very grounded, horrified performance. Like that would be my
that contrast is
that would
very
be my reaction to actually seeing
she looks absolutely terrified.
seeing this lady just levitate in front of me.
She
possessed.
did, like 6 feet in front of her. Like imagine just living your life and then 6 feet someone rises in the air
And tells you that you're going to die.
About that.
Yeah.
Stay away from this boy or you're going to die.
Oh, I'm not messing with this. It's pure comedic genius. Like everything in this film, it's like really great writing, and the actors really sell it.
Yeah. Her eyes were closed the whole time. Like she was straight faced, and she used all these different inflections to deliver it. And it was nothing to be ashamed of, but we still saw. Like that was really funny.
Yeah. That's funny. So what was your favorite scene then?
So my favorite scene is when Ashley and Henry go away for the very first time together, and they rent out a hotel room.
Oh, you know, the 2000s raunchy humor kind of seeped into here. Let's play it for the people.
I don't personally think this is raunchy, but this definitely tickled my pickle.
Why not?
We just got here. Don't you want to unpack? Check out the room?
Oh my God. Did you think that you could just bring me up here and never leave the room? Just put a do not disturb sign on the door and lock ourselves in for the weekend?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll go freshen up. Henry?
Yes.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the people who haven't watched the film, visually what's happening is they're at a hotel room and she's about to go freshen up in the bathroom. And as she's about to close the door, she hears Henry just in the cascade of farts. the minute-long barrage of... Yeah.
Made his own music.
Yeah. And then she's like, Henry, I'm still in the room. And he's like, yeah, like nonchalantly, like, what about it? And then she goes away. And then in the next scene, we see that it was just Eva Longoria faking those farts. Kind of like she faked the intercom voice in the gym to embarrass her.
Yeah. And me and Javi were both a little confused at why at this point in the experiences that she has had with this spectrum coming to haunt her, that she didn't immediately realize that she was messing with her again, which she consistently does in really out there ways. So I'm just like, of course that wasn't him farting. Of course that was very ridiculous. Like, why didn't you see that? And then she gets confronted and she goes, I should have known it was you. Like, how did you not?
Yeah. But again, this is like one of those moments, like, especially like with the possession scene as well. She has a very grounded and real reaction to this over the top craziness
her face
happening.
Is insane. It's so funny.
Yeah.
You guys got to watch it.
She's got the best poker face in the game. Yeah, and then afterwards, in that same scene, starts one of my favorite scenes where...
Is that your favorite scene?
No, my favorite scene was the possession scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, word. I didn't realize that was like your pick for the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, but then afterwards, after that fart scene, they're going to try to have sex, but Kate is like, nuh-uh. And she starts being very loud and annoying and not letting Ashley get into the moment. And all she can think about...
She's like, I will not let you have sex with my husband. But you didn't even say I do. You okay, one. But yeah, no, like she goes out of her way to make sure that doesn't happen. And she like floats above her. Well, and then Ashley opens her eyes and sees Kate literally floating above her, very similarly, actually, to the Haunting of Bly Manor with the bent neck lady of the child in there. If you guys have seen that one, it's like that kind of aspect of ghost that she's interfering. And she's like, oh my God. And then Henry's like, what? And she's like, oh, it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah. So many jokes happen in this scene. I'm telling you, it's like one little thing is the catalyst. These people want to have sex. She's going to stop them from having sex. How? By talking really loudly. And that is the catalyst for 10 different jokes that happen to try to drown out her voice. It's like, oh, talk dirty to me. Louder. Oh, put on some music. Oh yeah, salsa louder. Makes me horny.
Salsa makes me horny.
Oh man,
I love that.
It's so good.
And then I was thinking about it. This is an aspect of that scene in particular that I think is a little painful. Because I don't we're talking about the awkwardness that sometimes new connections can be. Which is exciting, but it's also embarrassing. It's also cringy, and it's scary too. And for Ashley to be in this new experience with a new partner, there's already so much to consider emotionally. And so for this ghost to not only be involved, but to have her hand so into what they're doing. She's in the room, she's speaking to her, and she's commenting on her performance as she's doing it too. She's like, I can't remember what exactly Ashley was doing. I think it's the part where she said, talk dirty to me. And then Kate was like, he doesn't like that. And it's like that for me, if I was in some type of competition with another person and they were able to, because it's like, sometimes you can have people's voices in your head during certain moments in your life where maybe somebody said something to you in an intimate moment and that comes back to haunt you when you're in a similar moment with somebody else. But now imagine that they're actually in the room watching you do that. And it's somebody who's trying to hurt you. And I just thought that the impact of that, even though it's funny, was what could actually potentially be extremely harmful for somebody in that kind of intimate atmosphere.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to talk about the polyamorous aspects of this film. The first thing I want to sink my teeth into is Jason Biggs' character, Dan, who pretends to be gay. And I wanted to think about the way that potentially Ashley being polyamorous in her world might have impacted how he felt safe to proceed in the relationship or connection to Ashley. I think Javi would agree with what I'm about to say about how if Ashley were potentially polyamorous, the pressure that Dan experienced in that moment when Ashley said to him, I'm so happy to have a gay friend. I don't think I could be this real with a straight man. I don't think that in a world where Ashley was poly, he would have felt the pressure to go along with that lie and live in that lack of authenticity for 5 years. I think that because what I've kind of experienced, like, for example, that trope of running to the wedding and saying, I object before they say I do, that kind of life or death doesn't exist in polyamory. There sometimes I can be a little spiteful in my head. Like there's maybe there's a person that I have a crush on that doesn't like me like that. And in my head I go, well, you lost your chance, buddy. But in reality, they could come back to me in years from now and my love is still there. It doesn't necessarily go away. I still feel love for people, even when I don't like them. If I don't like them, it means I still like them because I got to the point where I didn't like them. If I didn't like them, I wouldn't care, you know? That's the difference between indifference and hate.
Yeah, the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference.
Exactly. So if somebody got to the point where they pissed me off like that, it still means I care. And they could come back to me years from now and they didn't lose their chance because there is no chance to lose. You know, of course, unless you harm me or harm someone I care about or something like that, that's different. But what I'm kind of talking about is that this feeling that Dan has of this pressure of I've lost my chance wouldn't exist in that connection. It would never actually go away. So I don't think that if Ashley was poly, he would have had multiple chances, I think, to have felt safe to just communicate that wasn't actually, you know, how he walks the world, and maybe they could have moved past it. But I think because you have this monogamous outlook where, oh, this was my girl, I lost my chance when she thought I was gay, and then she started dating other people. If Ashley was poly and she started dating other people, the chance for Dan to be with Ashley is still there, and it doesn't ever go away. So he would never really lose that hope versus him living in this lie and just hoping to be near her. So I do personally think that if Ashley was poly in this thing, sure, there's a lot that Dan needs to confront by, you know, even wanting or living in that lie. There's a lot of problems that come from internal work in that. But I do believe that if Ashley was poly, he wouldn't have lived in that lie for as long as he did. It might have been a couple weeks versus 5 years.
Or not at all, and just him saying immediately, just being upfront and honest and communicative.
Well, how would you go about that? Like, I would really love to know, because obviously you're a cis man who has dated many women. If somebody said to you in that experience, I think you're gay and I'm glad that I have a gay friend, how would you react to that when you were about to kiss them?
I would laugh and say, I'm not gay. What made you think that? And end of story. Boom. No 5 years down the drain.
I think that if I was with a man and he said that to me, I would also just say I'm not gay. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I really wanted to get into
weird.
Dan's perspective, but I'm having a really hard time understanding why he did what he did for so long.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been trying to wrap my head around it for weeks, and he's just afraid of rejection as well. I could get.
Maybe
he's a nutcase.
But it's just, is that really it? Is it just the fear of rejection that would make someone do something like that for such a long time? Like, I'm really having a hard time fathoming it.
He's kind of a creep, and I don't know what his backstory is, what his attachment style kind of thing is, but he was literally being like, I'm in love with you. Yeah. And even though he's been living a lie, and their relationship and their friendship is a lie. And he said, like, every time she turns around, he sniffs her hair.
He sniffs her hair. That's what he said. Like, that's supposed to be romantic.
He's just creepy. You know, he has a warped idea of what should be. I don't know. I'm not going to try to get in his head. The person who should get in his head is a therapist.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. I'm literally trying to do backflips to understand it. Because I'm thinking there's more to it than rejection, but I can't understand why. So yeah, but I personally think that, yeah, like, if Ashley were poly, that fear of losing his chance is diminished. And I think that in that perspective, that would have helped him. So that's my first note on poly. The second thing I want to talk about is Kate's jealousy. And I wanted to talk about a little bit how to deal with jealousy in polyamory, because I think this is like the number one thing that people say. If you say you're poly, or the number one fear people have is, how do I deal with this jealousy? So yeah, we hear it all the time. I was wondering, Javi, you're such an open-minded, relaxed guy. And I was wondering, how does jealousy show up for you, or does it show up for you? If you could share your insights on it.
Well, the only time that I've really been jealous with you was one time you went in for a threesome and I felt some jealousy at it. And I watched a movie that I would really love to cover on this podcast, actually, called The Wicker Man, the original one, not the horrible Nicolas Cage one. But that movie was a cult movie. And it was this cult that was living on this island. And you were supposed to see it from like a horrified view, like, oh, how crazy that these people are all having sex with each other freely and no one is monogamous and everything. But I found it so freeing. I was like, oh, wow, that's actually beautiful. I would love that. And that made me feel a lot better. But that's really the only time I felt some jealousy in our relationship. I used to feel very jealous when I was monogamous. And especially like in high school and shortly after, I would get very jealous and possessive. But I don't know. I think being single for a long time helped me with that. Like being single as in like I would be with a lot of people, but I would never put a label on it. And I would be with a person for a finite amount of time and be with another people and multiple people and just never put a label on like that's my girlfriend or anything like that. I would just go about it. It was me. So I was being solo poly without even realizing it, you know. And until I eventually got a girlfriend
Did they know
exclusive.
about each other or anything?
No, it wasn't like that. It was like it was all very casual hookups and dating.
It's so different from my experience, where I was like a serial monogamist and all my relationships were very long term.
Yeah, I was doing the poly thing without even knowing I was doing the poly thing. And I just went into monogamous relationship because I figured that's what I had to do. And I tried open relationships twice before you, and it didn't work out because I went about them wrong, or just not in a healthy way.
2 times, huh?
Yeah, but you showed me a better way to do it, a really, really healthy way.
I love you.
I love you too. But yeah, jealousy is like a thing that has to be worked on because some people can just have it easier. And some people just can't, and they have to really work on it. But even if you have a predisposition to not being, even if you have a predisposition to being overly jealous or overly possessive, people still can understand when things that they're doing are wrong and know that I should get better at this and I will try. And they do the hard work to like make efforts and make steps to be better. That's what I respect right there.
Me too.
I love that. That's healthy. It's very healthy. Even people who are monogamous and they make steps to overcome their jealousies.
Yes.
That's really beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I don't respect is when, I've seen often, and I am guilty of too. And when I had a monogamous mindset where, people tend to justify their jealousy and use it to control their partners and say, well, if I'm jealous, it's your fault. And it's because you're doing something that's harming me, instead of doing that internal work. And that shows up in monogamy, but in monogamous relationships and the way that society is catered right now, people don't think that jealousy is something to work on. They think it's just something to avoid, or, like if you're texting this person and that hurts my feelings, regardless of the nature of the relationship, whether it's a coworker or an ex, if that hurts me, then you need to stop doing what you're doing. And that is the control that I put over your life. And I think that that's wrong, but that's what society right now deems is okay. And that's where I'm very uncomfortable with the aspect of jealousy in monogamous relationships in particular.
Yeah, jealousy is not something to be proud of. It's something you need to work on. And if jealousy pops up a lot in your relationships, one, you need to figure out, is that because of something that I'm feeling that's coming from insecurity of myself, or looking in the history of this person and me in this relationship, is this something that's a flag that I should look into, that maybe this person is doing something mischievous or deceiving me in some way? 9 times out of 10 is probably just an insecurity you're having, and you need to figure it out.
Literally always, honestly. And
very rarely does actually going through their phone and like trying to figure it out is the right answer. Very rarely.
Yeah. So as I'm talking, or as I'm hearing you, I'm realizing that I'm jealous of you, Javi. I'm jealous of your lack of jealousy. I'm jealous of how freely you can walk the world and how comfortable you are all the time. Javi is...
I think that's envy, what you're feeling.
And that's what I'm going to go into that actually, because my understanding before I did research was they're different. And that's how I described it to a lot of people. But actually, when I broke down the actual definitions, they're pretty similar. So I'm going to use them interchangeably in this conversation. But envious or jealous, that's how I'm feeling. That's how I feel about you. Like, Javi is a ginormous support in our relationship. He's just always makes me feel so safe. I can literally say whatever I want to him, and he will show up in just the most profound way. He's like I can't even describe it. He's an angel. And Javi's met a lot of my partners. Javi has hung out with me and my friends. He's been with me through that NRE experience, which can be a very sensitive time for couples, because once a new partner enters and you're watching your partner enter that honeymoon phase and you're watching them get swept up in it, it can feel like you're about to be abandoned. And that's where a lot of fear comes up for people. And Javi has never expressed to me fear of anything. And I just really, really admire and respect that. And Javi is my role model. And I think that he thinks the same about me, honestly, which is it's just fantastic, honestly. But yeah, no, like I wish that I was more like you. I wish I was more like Javi. Sometimes when I go about the world in my polyamorous journey, I think, what would Javi do?
What would Jay do?
Yeah.
What would Jesus do?
WWJD.
Well, yeah, it's two things. One, I'm like very secure in myself as a person, but it's also like, you create a super safe environment for me to express anything. Because you express every single little thing, I feel like, okay, well, if I express this little one concern that I have, it won't be a big deal. And it never is, And it's like, it's very rarely that I feel the need to say something, but when I do, it's always received.
And I also personally I go out of my way to make sure he's okay. If I ever do or say anything that I feel has transgressed any relationship boundary that we have set in any way, shape, or form, I go to him and I say, "Are you okay? Did this bother you? Like, I thought maybe you could perceive this way. Is that how you feel?" And the answer is usually no. He's usually cool as a cucumber. But
these are good things to have for monogamous relationships too. Any relationship,
yes,
I feel, at least with my track record, would definitely benefits from having a very clear and open communication and over communication, as this does.
It's better to over communicate than under communicate.
Yeah, we recently saw the Addams Family musical here.
Beautiful.
And
in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah, it was in Quincy. This one in the Quincy Music Theater.
In Quincy, Florida.
Yeah, and there was a character there. Was played by my awesome friend Shiloh, and she was portraying a wife that severely undercommunicated. She said that, "Oh no, undercommunication is how we've lasted for 20 or 30 years or however long."
Yeah, no, their relationship was not healthy, clearly.
Yeah, and Morticia and Gomez was like, "Oh, you gotta say every single little thing."
Morticia almost left Gomez because he kept one secret that his daughter asked him to keep.
Yeah, so that's also that's a differentiator.
That's its own thing, but that kind of goes to demonstrate how important not keeping secrets and having that authentic communication and that openness and that line of connection is important to Morticia in particular.
Yeah, so open, and honest communication is super important to the health of any relationship, especially polyamorous ones, which is where the bounds and the rules are your own to make.
Yes.
You don't go from
every relationship is so different. It's a make your own relationship. It's custom.
Yeah, DIY, bitch. But yeah, and communication is something that a lot of these characters lack in this movie.
That's very true.
Especially Jason
the people who are
Biggs.
communicating the most authentically is Ashley and Kate.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't fuck my husband. What are you going to do about it? You're dead.
Very open.
Very open, very real. I wanted to talk a little bit about how jealousy shows up for me and the difference and not so difference between envy and jealousy. So according to Google, our Lord and Savior, as we've already established, envy is a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, quality, or luck. And jealousy is just a little broader, actually. And there's a few definitions of it. So the first definition is literally one, similar to envy. So they are interchangeable. Two, feeling or showing suspicion of someone's unfaithfulness in a relationship. That's the whole definition, which I find very interesting. Three, fiercely protective or vigilant of one's rights or possessions. So it's similar to envy, but I think it does more talk about possessiveness and specifically cheating in relationships in particular.
And it's funny that it says about possession and the right to it because your partner is not your possession.
Mm-hmm.
They are their own free person. And so there's a lot of that jealousy that happens in monogamous relationships. And sometimes in any relationship, there's that possessive jealousy. And that's the differentiator between a person who realizes that jealousy is something they should work on because their partner is not their property, and the big portion of society that says jealousy is an okay thing. And in fact, I should be proud of this. And why is that person not acting like my property?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So yeah. And when I researched these and I wrote these down and I found the first definition was literally similar to envy, I was like, okay, I've been differentiating these, they are different. And that's how I've been describing it to people. But when I wrote it down, I was like, oh, okay, they're the same. But when I read it again now and have you speak on it, it does feel like it's separated for me once again, which I find very interesting.
I've always seen jealousy as in the Venn diagram of jealousy and envy. Jealousy is negative, envy is positive.
Envy is positive?
But envy is I am envious of David Goggins and his work ethic. It's something that I aspire to. I'm not jealous of
I hear
David
what you're
Goggins.
saying, and that's ultimately how I felt it to be too, but I didn't perceive it as positive. If I'm feeling envious, it feels green. It feels like jealousy. It doesn't feel good. So I don't interpret envy as a positive emotion, but you can make it positive, which is, I think, what you're speaking on.
I've channeled feelings of envy into positive things. I've channeled that as motivation.
Yeah. So for me, it doesn't show up like that. I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is actually envy. There are things that, I wish I could change about myself or my body. And I can be very proud. I can be very confident. I can feel very sexy. But there's sometimes when I'm in a room with somebody who has certain traits or qualities that I wish I had, it sometimes makes it hard to stand next to them. And I feel like I'm being compared to that person. And sometimes I can even feel the reaction that somebody that I'm interested in is having to me and to that person. And it just doesn't feel good. But that's something that I struggle with is, I think it's more just that whole compare and despair mentality, where, you know, it's like that's something that you have to remind yourself when you are dating someone who's dating other people, is that no one is you. No one is like you, and no one can offer what you offer. And even if this relationship is terminated, that is still true. And that's also the thing about relationships, is that not everyone is meant to be in your life forever. And that doesn't diminish the value of that relationship either.
Most people will not be in your life forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a finite thing. You have to enjoy it while it lasts. So
yeah,
it's great movies. Even some of the greatest movies, even some of the longest, only last for 3 or 4 hours. It won't last in your life forever. It's a small example, but it's finite, you know.
Yeah.
And the story will live off in your head, and the morals that you take and the lessons from that movie or that song, the happiness in your heart, or that relationship and that beautiful kiss you guys shared, or that beautiful sentiment that they left in your heart. It can still live on in you, you know. The
people are still in your life, even if they're not in your life. Like, I have people I still think about from kindergarten. They're still present in the way that they showed up for me then. I was literally Charles Gunther. If you're out there, I love you. No, I'm just playing.
He talks about you all the time.
No,
dude.
I don't. I absolutely do not. But it's a funny story. Me and a bestie, but just like real quick, it's since I brought it up, I was literally talking to a coworker about this today. So I had a best friend in elementary school named Sophia. I'm calling you out, and we've actually reconnected recently, and it was really nice. After 20 or so years, it's wild how people can re-enter, but she was still in my life, even though she wasn't in my life, because she exists in my head. She exists in my memories. So she's there. And the memories that we have absolutely influence how we walk the world sometimes. Your past can be in your present and be in your future. And it's up to you to distinguish that so that you can live as authentically as you want to live. But anyway, so I was dating Charles Gunther, and my bestie actually was in love with him too. And she told me that she saw Charles hold hands with another girl. And I said, "Excuse me?" And Charles went on to communicate to me in 5th grade, 4 years later, after I had been crushing on him the entirety of elementary school. And he told me, we dated in 1st grade. And I said, "What are you talking about? I have no memory of this." He's like, "Yeah, we dated, and you broke up with me. You pushed me down the slide, and you said, 'I'm dumping you.'" And I had no memory of that. And I cannot believe the complete hole I digged for myself, because I went on completely crushing on him for 4 more years. And Sophia, she didn't get to date him either. So who won in that?
Charles Gunther's ego. That's who won. That story's still funny even after these years of telling it.
Oh, shut up. But yeah, so but anyway, like kind of circling back to dealing with jealousy in relationships and in a polyamorous relationship, typically what kind of shows up for me and Javi when we're dealing with these feelings and these emotions is I'll feel them and I'll tell him that I'm feeling this way. He'll offer me that security blanket. And a lot of times I have to sit through that feeling and figure out where it's coming from. And Javi's right. If you're feeling envious of somebody, it's usually because you just covet what they have. And then you can work to channel that within yourself and figure out how you can get that for yourself and work towards that goal. Or do your best or do your best to understand that no one is like you, and you'll offer something to your partner that other person can't, and they'll offer something that you can't. And that's totally fine. It's the same with friendships, and it's the same with romantic connections. And also something that I heard someone say, I think it was in a polyamorous podcast. It literally might be Practicing Polyamory, but I might be wrong, is somebody said one thing that helped them in their journey is in the beginning when they were watching their partner go on dates all the time, they would rephrase the word in their head as like, instead of boyfriend, partner, who, whatever, they would instead say friend. And when they rephrased that in their head and said, oh yeah, I went out with a friend, we had a good time and we talked, it all of a sudden wasn't as threatening as I went out with this like cute girl, we had a good time and we talked. And it made her feel safer. It kind of opened up that space for her to be able to kind of dip her toes in that well until she could completely submerge herself in the feelings without it feeling like she was losing her partner. I thought that was cool.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, Kate is dead, and and Henry and Kate cannot have a constructive conversation about their insecurities and their jealousies. So, but if they could, they should acknowledge it, communicate it openly without shame in a way that feels safe, and then unmask what the jealousy is covering up. There was a really cool illustration I saw to kind of just like top off this little Sunday that we've created about jealousy. And it was like a little comic, and it said, I sat with my anger and it told me its true name. And the other character said, what was its name? And it said grief. And so, yeah, I think about that sometimes. And it's the same with jealousy. You get to the bottom of it and you can find the core of what you're really feeling.
Yeah. I have this, not a theory, but just a philosophy, an idea that helps me compartmentalize hard feelings sometimes when I'm confronted by hard things, that emotions can all be put under two umbrellas. Emotions can either come from a place of love or a place of fear. Like an anger, or a jealousy, or a sadness comes from places of fear that, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to lose this person, so I'm angry and I'm going to sabotage their relationship, like Kate does. Or a place of love where, oh, you know what? I love Henry so much, I'm going to let him be happy. And I'm going to
compersion.
Compersion.
Yes.
So,
do you want to talk about compersion?
Yeah, these two side characters that we have are two opposite sides of compersion, where Jason Biggs is, every time that Ashley gets a new partner, from what we heard him say, was that he would always find some sort of criticism on them, so he wouldn't be very comperse or supportive. He would always just find the fault in them. And Kate was not very comperse, obviously, but by the end of the film, she was able to give them their blessing for them to get married on their own wedding day.
So compersion is ultimately the joy that you experience at your partner experiencing joy. It's also seen as the opposite of jealousy. So, for example, if Javi goes on a miraculous, wonderful date, comes back home and tells me about it, instead of thinking, oh, you know, he had a good time, or I'm single and boohoo. Instead, you look at this person and their glowing face and how happy they are, and you feel happy for them, and that's compersion. So practice compersion in all relationships, truly.
Yeah, be happy for other people's happiness. It's nice.
The next thing I wanted to talk about in polyamorous themes is fighting with a metamour. A metamour, for people who don't know, is basically my partner's partner. It kind of feels like a sister or a brother-in-law, but it's a brother in love. So you liked that?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different ways to practice polyamory. Some people never meet their metamours. Some people meet and enjoy it. Javi, like I discussed, has met his metamours, but I've actually yet to meet a single one of his metaphors. I worked in collaboration with one. So because I wanted her to come down for a surprise party that me and Javi's parents were planning for him. And I was inviting people from like all over the state basically to come be part of this experience. And I wanted to bring her into it. And I was scared to do that because right now, Javi and I actually have a boundary that I set up because, well, the boundary that we created is more about bringing dates into the home. To try to like keep the safe space while we navigate our journey to protect, like to kind of get in front of any potential upsets that could happen until we feel like we can navigate those kinds of experiences. But basically, I've created a distance between myself and my metamours because I want to be sure that I'm in a space to receive those experiences and be that comperse poly person instead of showing up in a way that is harmful to my relationship or Javi's relationships. So it was a big deal for me to reach out to his partner and try to get her involved, and not only get her involved, but make sure she was set up successfully. Because one thing that I did for Javi's surprise party was I actually made a collage of every single thing that I could think of that he would like as a present. And I think I asked him to write some stuff down. He didn't know why. I put his favorite color and just like all of this random crap. And I could have, in another world, I could have not given her that collage and completely sabotaged the gift that she could potentially give Javi. But instead, I chose to set her up for success, and I gave her that information so that she could show up the best that she could in her relationship to Javi. She wasn't unfortunately able to be there, so we didn't get to go through that kind of experience. But the fact that I reached out to her, set her up for success, and she was able to experience in that joy in the way that she did was a big deal for me. And but for Javi, it's different. Like he's hung out with so many of my partners, and that's what he's fine with. And that's also what we want to illustrate for everyone, is that everyone is different. The way that you need to walk in your relationship is the way you need to walk in, and that's perfect. And just keep doing you and keep trying your best to grow and be in love and do the best you can for yourself and for your relationships. So it's all good. Take your time.
Yeah, do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. There's some metamours get close and they develop a kitchen table polyamory, which is it's exactly as it sounds, where everyone is like connecting and they're all friends. And that's ultimately what Javi and I want to cultivate. But some people never have stronger than a casual acquaintanceship, and that's good too. Don't think that there's anything wrong with you or wrong with your connections if you're not friends with your metamour. That's fine. Don't let anyone tell you differently. In this situation with Kay and Ashley, we obviously have one person trying to actively sabotage the relationship of their metamour, which is a very different situation. And I'm not entirely sure how to navigate it. So I would really like to talk about it. What do you do if your metamour actively tries to negatively impact your health, your work, and your relationship? There is a part in the film where Kate literally keeps Ashley up all night telling her stupid stories so that she literally can't sleep. And then the next day she hurts herself at work. She literally harms herself. She sets herself on fire because Kate is going so far out of her way to ruin her life and her sanity and make her look bad and destroy her reputation. So that's insane. Imagine that happening in real life. It's very toxic. So some people online say that the V of these partnerships should not get involved unless help is requested. And I don't really agree with that. I don't necessarily think people agree with me when I say don't agree with that, but I think
the hinge in that V is what should navigate that relationship.
I'm glad you agree. Because let's talk about a V real first, too, just for anyone who's not familiar with that vocab term. A V is one person who has two partners that are not connected romantically to each other.
Yeah, the V is like a love triangle where, that's like what typically is seen as a love triangle. Like if you're going to explain it literally, a love triangle would be three people together who all are into each other. But a V is what is typically seen as a love triangle in media, where two people are with or in love with the same person. A hinge is that person. And the hinge, I feel, and I see that Hailey agrees, is the hinge is the person that should navigate the friendship between those two people in that V that are in love with the hinge, those metamours. That the hinge should be the person that helps those metamours get along. And if some kind of disruption or negative feeling arises between those two metamours, then it's up to the hinge I feel it should be their responsibility to take action.
Wow. I didn't know how you would react to me saying that, but I'm feeling really connected with you right now. Yeah. I literally wrote, I think it's important and healthy to take responsibility for your relationships to work. I believe, like you said, if your metaphors are fighting and you're in a position where you can positively impact the situation or even believe you can, you need to try on your own to figure out at least a compromise for everyone and make sure everyone feels safe and heard and like you're not taking sides and just work as that positive mediator, because ultimately it's going to impact your relationship. It doesn't really matter how little or how big what's happening is. It's going to harm everybody involved. Yeah. So once again, circling back to boundaries, honesty, and communication.
Unfortunately, the Rudd couldn't even really get a chance to be a good hinge.
No, he couldn't. I think he would do a great job.
Yeah, I'm sure. He seems like a chill, laid back guy.
Yeah. So my last note on the polyamorous aspects of this film were Kate's fears and insecurities. So I think Kate was afraid of maybe being replaced by Ashley, which is kind of something that we touched on a little bit, that fear of abandonment, especially in that honeymoon or NRE phase. At the core of her actions, I think, is that insecurity. It's very relatable for people in the polyamory community. So how does one manage the fear of being replaced? I think you can talk to your partner about your fears for reassurance, but I feel a lot of the work in poly comes from within. Instead of relying on others to affirm your value, search within yourself to find your value and affirm yourself. No one is you, like I said earlier, and no one can do what you can. Javi, what do you think about like the fear of maybe being replaced? Because we also talked about her fear of letting go, maybe her fear of living in purgatory. Do you think that maybe the fear of replacement is more prevalent in Kate's character than even Eva Longoria believes is there?
Yeah, I think that's something that most people feel, especially when you can't do anything about it. Like Eva Longoria's character, she's literally stuck in purgatory. She's dead. She can't do anything about it. And then she's given the chance to do something about it. Yeah, that's a valid fear.
So, drum roll? Should they just be poly?
Some of them should. Some of them should not.
Talk to me.
I think you know who I'm going to say.
No, I literally don't.
Jason Biggs should not be poly. Jason Biggs should not be dating anyone.
Okay, you're saying Jason Biggs like it's his fault. We're talking about Dan.
Dan, yeah.
Dan the man.
Dan
the not gay man.
Dan should not go out with anybody. Dan should go out with himself.
What he should actually do is crawl into a corner and live his life in solitary. No, I'm just kidding. No. What should he do then?
Everyone deserves love, but he needs to learn how to love himself, because he needs to find himself. He needs to go out into the forest, take some acid, or go to get some therapy, Like write a book, read a book or something.
I literally can't tell you what that character needs because I can't understand him. I'm doing backflips trying to, and I can't. So I can't really speak on what I think he needs.
Yeah, he's not communicative at all. He's very not honest. He lied for 5 years.
And not just about his identity, about his interest and
his whole life.
And
he lied about his whole life.
Who he was dating, like in that whole time he never dated anybody. Nah, of course he did. I'm sure he dated women, and I'm sure he lied about dating men. Like, I think that this lie was an entire spider web, and it just got worse and worse and worse. Like, imagine how many lies you could tell in a day. Now multiply that.
Yeah. I think by the end of it, Kate could, yes, she should be poly.
I think that polyamory would have solved the problems of this movie.
Yeah, if polyamorous was in this movie, shoot, there's no movie.
I think I think that what would have happened is if Ashley was poly, if Henry was poly, and Kate was poly, that actually would have negatively impacted not only the people who were in this polyamorous connection, who understood that there's nothing wrong with Henry moving on if Kate was alive or if Kate was dead, but also I think that maybe Dan's character, he would have maybe not been poly. He might have been monogamous and had been stuck in those mindsets, but meeting someone like Ashley who kind of showed him that, you know, it's possible and like it's okay to be authentic, because I think that's a huge part of polyamory. It should be a part of every relationship. Like we keep saying, all of the things we're talking about, boundaries, honesty, communication, should be in every relationship. It's absolutely true. But what happens in polyamorous connections is that these things are on a spotlight, and if they're not present, you feel that. It's not just like something that is as easy to ignore as it has been in monogamous relationships and our monogamous relationships. The things that are lacking will be the breaks in your bridge, and you have to fix those repairs or else the bridge is no longer there.
Yeah, I also think Kate would just be a very good practical polyamorous practitioner. Like she would have the whole Google Calendar.
She would
and
have
everything.
a binder. Yeah, she would. The Google Calendar, she'd have a binder where all of her stuff's listed. She would be the person like in You who wrote up the contract to engage in a sexual relationship with a couple.
There was this YouTube short of a comedian I saw the other day that she was like, you know, picking out people from the crowd to like make fun of and poke jokes at, and there was this one couple where like, we're poly. Oh yeah, that's my boyfriend and that's his boyfriend. And they're like, oh, you guys are poly? What, do you guys have a Google Calendar or something? I just couldn't do it. And but I was thinking like, yeah, you gotta have a Google Calendar.
Well,
like,
we don't have one, but you know, we do hear that's how people navigate. We have friends who talk to us about that. You
gotta be organized because people have busy lives, and then they have multiple partners. So like, you think your life is busy, you know? Yeah, we also work full-time jobs. And not only do we have a partner, sometimes we have multiple partners that we gotta go out with and on the week and all these things. So
love is infinite, time is not.
Yeah, your love is it's not, your heart is not a cake where you have different slices too. Your heart is a cake factory, but there's only 24 hours in the day to make a cake. So your time is finite, so you gotta equal it out.
I think Dan would benefit from it. Yeah, I think it would change his life.
It might be a positive influence on his life.
Absolutely, I think that.
So yes.
Yay, we got one.
We got one.
Yes.
All right.
Happy endings for everybody. Woo! Right, I'm so happy. Yeah, because if they were poly, he might have been sad and wanted to go to the psychic, but instead of even pretending like he wasn't into her, he would have been like, hey, cutie. You talk to ghosts, huh? You want to talk to me?
For the last part of our show today, we're going to see how much Letterboxd hates this movie. Because if we like a movie, Letterboxd probably hates it.
No one agrees with us ever.
Yeah. All right. Before we search it up, we need to give our own ratings before we see Letterboxd.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right, I'll go first.
Okay. Out of 5, right?
Yeah, out of 5 stars, half stars included. I think this movie surprised me. I think it's clever. I think it's very well written. I like the character work. Had me laughing the whole time. There are some things that leave a little bit to the imagination. What I mean by that is, I feel like the main characters just could have been dug in a little bit more and just shown a little bit more dimensions. And also, it's like the film wasn't trying to be more than what it was. It's a rom-com in the 2000s, and for being a rom-com in the 2000s, it did a lot more than a lot of other rom-coms, even today and before. it didn't say anything on the surface that was too deep. It wasn't like a very dense, chock full of theme and philosophy kind of film, but it wasn't trying to be that.
It was
And
lighthearted.
It was very lighthearted, even with the very dark themes that it came across at times. So I've been teetering on 3 and 4 stars. So I'm gonna hit it with the 3.5 stars.
Okay.
That's like above average. It's like, yeah, that was good. I liked it.
I agree with you. Yes. After weighing what you said and weighing my thoughts and feelings, I also stand by that 3.5.
3.5 for both.
Yeah.
Cool. This movie's as good as 50 First Dates. I think this is better than 50 First Dates, actually.
I think that for me, 50 First Dates is better in the complexity and like the heart-wrenching atmosphere of the story itself.
They both have great concepts.
Yeah, but like as a rom-com, I think that this one is better in terms of like its comedy.
Yeah, they're both very rewatchable.
Yeah, I think that Ashley and Henry have more chemistry than Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, or Lucy and Henry as well. Another Henry.
Yeah. Let's see what Letterboxd says. Average rating of 2.3, below average. Yeah, people don't like it. This description: she's passed on, but she's not moving on.
Can I try delivering that? She's passed on, but she's not moving on. No, I don't like how I delivered that.
Yeah.
But I can hear the guy in my head going, like I can hear him saying it. And I wish I could do it.
She's passed on, but she's not moving on.
That's good. Very good.
It was directed by Jeff Lowell, by the way, who made John Tucker Must Die.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I know you do. So here is some of the reviews. 1.5 stars from Rebecca. I've never seen Citizen Kane. Every time I choose a movie, I think to myself, the supposed greatest movie of all time awaits me. I could choose to watch something right now that might blow my mind and change my life forever. But I didn't. Instead, I rewatched Over Her Dead Body and had a great time.
Aww.
But 1.5 stars. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Right.
That was such a wholesome review for such a low rating.
What the hell? 3 stars. Can't blame her. If I died the day I was supposed to marry Paul Rudd, I'd be fuming.
Oh, I'd be mad too.
Yeah.
Poor baby.
1.5 stars. Such a poorly made, lazy, and horribly unfunny romantic. I'm going to stop reading there.
My arms just crossed.
Yeah. 0.5 star. Wow. 0.5 star, dude. It was like literally.
I didn't know you could go that low.
Like literally, they think it's worse than garbage.
0 stars?
No, 0.5 stars is
the lowest you can go. And they think it's garbage?
They think it's garbage. Like literally throw it in the garbage. 0.5 star. This may have made a decent horror movie.
What are you talking about?
Get out of here.
Can you read me something positive, something good that will lighten my spirits?
We have a friend, Isabel. 5 stars.
Wow, 5 stars.
Awesome, sweet movie. Heart, peace, and love. I love these hilarious, petty women so much. If you hate this movie, I'll break your spine. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel.
We appreciate this.
She said, I love these petty women. That cracks me up. They are very petty.
Yeah.
I wonder why Henry, well, it's just, I that's kind of me though. My brain just went so fast, but like I have types and Javi doesn't have types, but I was thinking like, I wonder what Henry sees in Kate versus what he sees in Ashley, because they are very different people. And for Isabel to say that they're both petty was the only time I actually saw that they had anything in common other than Henry. And I was reflecting on that because my type is, it has evolved over time. Like when I was younger, I really liked blonde hair, blue eyes. And now my type is like brown hair, brown eyes. And yeah, like I do like typically the people that I date look similarly, but Javi's not like that. He doesn't have a type. His type is very eclectic and he loves literally everybody. And I really respect and admire and appreciate about who he is as a person. But I was thinking about that in terms of Henry, like, you know, I was just wondering like how he connected with all these people. But that's kind of the beauty of it, is that different people bring out different aspects of you and bring in different experiences. And it's a very beautiful thing to have connections like that.
That's beautiful. I think we'll end it on that. Do you want to know what the next movie we're going to be watching is?
Yeah. There's a ghost in the room. Did you hear that?
You know I'm still in the room, right?
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck? So, the next movie we're going to be watching for our December episode is
What?
Love Actually.
Love Actually.
I don't think you've ever seen it.
No, I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's a Christmas rom-com.
My fire is not fueled here, but we'll see how it goes.
It has a lot of different stories.
That's the guy where he holds like in the Taylor Swift music video, you know, where she's like holding signs at the window and she's like, through the window, like the signs. That's where it's from, isn't it? Where he holds signs. Does he hold a boombox over his head? No, that's not the same thing. He holds signs and he's like, ha 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 ha. This is the guy who plays in The Walking Dead. The same guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, actually. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do it for Rick. Carl.
They're still going. It's so crazy. Cancel that show already. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next month for...
We have an outro now.
Oh, true.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please share, review, or comment to help us get discovered by new listeners. You can follow us on Instagram at Just Be Poly Podcast or stay updated on new episodes. I'm Hailey.
And I'm Javi.
And this has been the
Just Be Poly Podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.